Most people look at The Incredibles and see a clever superhero comedy about a family trying to blend into suburbia. They're wrong. Pixar didn't actually make an action movie about fighting supervillains. They hid a terrifyingly accurate, heartbreaking case study on clinical depression and the grief of ordinary life right inside a children's cartoon. Look closely at the scene where Bob is sitting inside his cramped, dimly lit cubicle. He isn't just looking annoyed by his job. Look at his posture. Look at the way his massive frame is physically hunched over, practically folding in on itself to fit inside a space built for an ordinary human. That isn't a comedic visual gag about a big guy in a small office. That is a physical manifestation of a psychological freeze response. It is the visual layout of a man who is actively suffocating under the weight of an identity crisis. And if you've ever had to suppress the things that make you uniquely you, just to fit into a system that demands conformity, you already know exactly how this feels. To understand how Bob gets here, we have to look back at the immediate aftermath of the superhero ban. The world didn't just ask the supers to stop wearing capes. The system forced them to undergo relocation. They forced exceptional individuals to perform a psychological erasure of their past achievements. When Bob sits in gridlock traffic, staring blankly ahead, he isn't mourning the loss of fame. He is experiencing an acute form of grief. In psychology, identity foreclosure happens when a person's sense of self is strictly tied to a singular role, in this case, being the savior. When his role is stripped away by law, Bob doesn't know how to exist. On the surface, the dinner table scene is a family comedy, but look at Bob's eyes. He is completely detached. He is physically present, but psychologically miles away. When your entire worth has been defined by doing things no one else can do, ordinary life doesn't feel like a peaceful retirement. It feels like a prison sentence. This is where the video takes a shift. Because the true villain of The Incredibles isn't Syndrome. It isn't a giant killer robot. The villain is the crushing mediocrity of a society that demands compliance over excellence. Look at what Bob has to do to feel alive. He has to sneak out into the dark, sit in a trench coat, and listen to a police scanner just to catch a fleeting glimpse of the man he used to be. This isn't a midlife crisis. It's a survival strategy. When Mirage offers him an underground mission, Bob accepts it instantly, without asking questions. Why? Because the pain of risking his life on a dangerous island is infinitely more tolerable than the slow, agonizing emotional death of sitting behind an insurance desk. Pixar shows us that when a high-performing person is denied their purpose, they will willingly walk into a trap just to remember what it feels like to breathe. This is what Pixar buried beneath the comic book paint job, the exhausting reality of gifted burnout. Because the truth is, Bob Parr's story isn't tragic because he is a cartoon superhero trapped in an insurance office. It's tragic because it is a mirror. It is a mirror for anyone who grew up believing they were built for something massive, only to wake up one day trapped in a routine of bills, expectations, and invisible walls. It's for anyone who looks at their current life and quietly grieves the version of themselves they left behind in their youth. If you are the person who has spent your entire adulthood trying to replicate a feeling of purpose that the world kept telling you to downsize, if you feel like you are folding your identity into a box that was never meant to hold you, you don't need to save the universe to matter, and you don't need to force yourself to love a cubicle just to survive. You just need to realize that the value of your strength was never defined by how much of the world you could carry on your back.